Hello and welcome to another episode of Wedflics. I'm your host, Julia Braime. I'm the founder and editor of Brides Up North, the top UK wedding blog for northern couples, and the editor of Unveiled magazine, your go-to bridal glossy. In today's show, I chat with Karen of the Vintage Cake Fairy all about her sugarcraft skills. They taste pretty good too. Let's meet her. Okay, so hi Karen, welcome to Wedflics. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
So I can see you're in your studio there with lots of gorgeous ribbons and cakes behind you.
Yes. I'm here in my studio, which is actually in a garage that I renovated myself. So it's all fully purpose built for basically working my magic, and I normally have people come to see me as well, and we design cakes here, so it's a nice space. I spend a lot of time here, so I made it nice on purpose.
Yeah, good plan. So Karen's alluded to what she does. She's a cake maker. She's a baker and decorator of beautiful celebration and wedding cakes, and you can see some of them behind. Karen's a bit different from your traditional or normal wedding cake maker in that her cakes are quirky works of art, is how I describe them. And I've been lucky enough to see them in the flesh and taste some of her cake as well when I've met her at some of our wedding shows back in the day. So I can vouch for Karen's skills, definitely. So Karen, I tell you what, instead of me rambling on, why don't you introduce yourself and your business to us?
Well, basically, my name's Karen. I started my business just 6 years ago, actually. My birthday was on the 12th of January, so I've just gone 6. Before that, I actually used to work in London. I worked in London freelance as a prop maker, and just in between jobs and things like that, I got into decorating cakes just as a hobby. I realised that I could do it probably a lot better than the work that I was being paid to do, so I kind of shifted focus, and then I got a job with a local cake maker down there, where I worked for about 2.5 years before coming back to Yorkshire to set my business up. So I've actually been decorating cakes now for about 11 years.
Wow, okay.
Still think I've got quite a lot to learn, because there's obviously new technologies and everything that's coming in with the cake makers. You know, we're very influenced by America, so there's always things coming in and new things to learn. So yes, 11 years, it's a long time really, but
Wow.
minuscule if you think about it in the lifetime of things like that. But yes.
Well, in the history of the world, it's minuscule, but in your life, that's quite a lot of experience, you know. So have you always baked? Have you always liked baking, making cakes, decorating, or?
Weirdly, no. I always, when I did the job working at the cake shop, the bake day was my least favourite day. But you can't decorate a cake until you have a cake, so I think that it's a really important part.
Yeah.
So I really forced myself to really work on baking and stuff, but I wouldn't really call myself that much of a natural baker. I mean, when I was little, I used to bake with my mum and my grandma, but not as many as you think. That you see these other cake makers and they like, oh, when I was 6 I was making cakes and fancy things, and you know, my life's being driven by it. With me, it was the other way around. It was like I really strive to the look of a cake and the decorating of it. That's where I got my most enjoyment out of cake decorating, really. So.
No, I like that. I like the honesty, and it's something that you've obviously had to develop, a skill that's fairly important for making wedding cakes. So in order
Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I really do think that it's an important part, and I do work really hard on my baking. And if I do need to develop a new flavour, if anybody asks me, then I will do that. And over the years, I've developed a really good recipe, which I mean, you've tasted it yourself. It's quite infamous, really, that it's really tasty, and people keep coming back for that. So it's nice to know that people do like my baking, even though the decorating is the bit where I get the most enjoyment out of.
Yeah, and it's kind of the two elements coming together, isn't it, to deliver the finished product. But I think it's fine to be honest and say you enjoy one part of your job more than another. I mean, in my business, I wear a lot of different hats, and I definitely prefer some parts of it to the other bits. So I think,
Yeah, definitely. And I always say that it's really important that you need style and substance. So that's why I do invest a lot of time trying to develop my baking and things like that, because it doesn't really come naturally to me, whereas the decorating does. So it is important. I know I've just basically said that I don't really like it, but I do. I'm job at the end of the day, and I really do enjoy doing it.
So, Karen, let's talk then about the decorating side. Let's talk about your sort of signature style, I guess, because even though your cakes are also different, you do have a signature style. How would you describe how you decorate?
To be honest, I really don't think I do. I do a lot of the reveal cakes, which is an example behind me, which is a good way of kind of putting a lot of personality into a cake. Usually, my grooms get involved in that side because it's something that the brides will kind of let them have a bit of a say into putting something a little bit fun and quirky. But my style really is like, at the end of the day, it's your wedding. So if you're really full of personality, why not have a cake that represents that, you know? So I always try to design a cake that's purely for my couples, you know? So whether it be a really novelty cake or a really kind of sleek, modern and elegant cake, it's like I am quite happy to give them whatever they want that reflects them as a couple, basically.
Yeah, I would say, see, if I had said what your signature style was, I would definitely have gone for that reveal cake style, because that's what I sort of know you and love you for, really. Because if people watching or listening don't know what a reveal cake is, well, you really need to watch this because you need to see the cake that's
To be
behind.
honest, when I turn it on, I normally have this on a motorized, so like I turn it on.
Oh, well,
Can
isn't that just perfect?
give it a second, because it's like this is the back. I mean, you see. I mean, I can't really do that with real cakes because unfortunately they weigh too heavy. But because these are just polystyrene bases, they're not as, so I can have it spinning round. And I usually at wedding fairs I do have one that's there to spin.
Yeah, it's so clever. So essentially with the reveal cake, the front of the cake is dressed like a traditional, in inverted commas, wedding cake.
Yeah.
And then you almost have the curtains pulling back at the back, almost like a superhero bursting out of his
Yeah,
dress,
well,
right?
that's where they first actually came about. I mean, when was it? I think it might have been about 4 or 5 years ago. There was this one cake. To be honest, I feel so bad. I don't actually know the name of this decorator that was the first person to do it. But it was all marble on the back, and it was like this beautiful white, very flowery front, and then you turned it round and it was all like marble at the back, and the world went crazy for it. So because of that, I'm like, well, that's actually a really novel idea. So I did one, and I showed it, and people loved it. And then since then, I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be marble. You can literally have anything on the back. So I've done paintings of where people have grown up. I've done well, there's Harry Potter there. I've done Star Wars. I've done, gosh, I can't think, cities where the couples have got memories of, or where they've lived. It's like it literally can be anything you want can be on the back of a cake, and because it's on the back, it doesn't really distract too much from the beautiful front that the bride might maybe want.
Although people are going to spend more time looking at the back in reality, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. My sister actually calls them Tadah cakes, because when you turn it around, it's like Tadah.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting about them is obviously the front of that cake is exquisite with the florals and the piping. But what I think it demonstrates is that you should put personality into your wedding, because whilst all that is beautiful, it's the other side that's interesting. It's almost like a metaphor for a wedding day, that it's like the personality and the people behind the wedding day are what matter. Oh, I might even cry. I think it's it really does work.
A couple get married, it's like they think that this is the only time that they're going to do it, and it's a big part of their life, and it's like it costs thousands and thousands of pounds, so why can't you really have the wedding that you want? And I really love how weddings nowadays are kind of, they're showing that, and it's like there's a lot more suppliers that are coming out that are a little bit alternate, a little bit different, and allowing couples that might not necessarily 10 years ago wanted to get married because, oh well, we don't really fit into that stigma, that stereotype. Now they're having, well, actually, you know what, yeah, we can do this and we can do it our way. And it's like, I really love that, and that's what I kind of want going forward, the wedding industry to kind of keep going, and like, you know, letting couples have the wedding that they want. I mean, because their wedding, you know, at the end of the day. And cakes like this that have personality and a bit of fun are just something that I absolutely adore doing.
Do you know what's interesting as well? I think in these times with coronavirus, we're filming this in lockdown 3. Hopefully by the time this is released, we'll be a little bit out of lockdown 3. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But one thing about these coronavirus times and the need to have smaller, more intimate weddings, and almost like rethink the concept of what your wedding day is going to look like, I think that has pushed, in a good way, couples to focus on the things that are most important to them. So their own personalities. Whilst you can't have a lot of entertainment, you can have, you know, mementos or symbolism that shows you off as a couple. You're going to have your very closest family and friends there. It's all just a little bit less, what's the word, superficial, and a lot more kind of soulful, I think, this year and last.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's forcing couples to really decide what they want. And as much as it's frustrating for them having to not know really what they want, you know, they can't have what they thought that they wanted. At least now they're kind of, it's forcing them to kind of really kind of dig deep and really have the wedding that they do. And it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I always look for the silver lining. So if that's the silver lining that we're going to take, then let's take it. But do you know what, as well, you made a point about people who are maybe think themselves as more quirky or alternative, having the wedding days that they want. I think that's a really good point. But I think for a while there, we saw kind of quirkiness in weddings becoming a theme rather than speaking to the couple themselves. It was almost something you did as a different trend. And I think it's great that we've kind of come away from that now, and actually it's more to the heart of it. So it's not just being quirky for the sake of it, it's being representing yourselves through your wedding day, essentially.
Yes, exactly. I mean, one of the first ever quirky cakes I did was it was literally within a year of me starting up, actually. And thinking back now, I way undercharged, but you know, new in business, you don't really know what your worth is. But they were a steampunk couple.
Oh yeah.
Steampunk is basically something it's like a fusion of 2 different themes. So it's all Victoriana, but it's like Industrial Revolution. So it's all like cogs and gears and interesting inventions, but it's all done with like corsets and top hats and big dresses with big bums and things like that. And I just think it's absolutely amazing. And making this wedding cake for this couple, it just basically dove me into a world, because I'd never really heard of it. But researching it to design their cake, I'm like, this is absolutely amazing. And from that, I actually then made this cake, which you can just kind of see, which I made in 2016, believe it or not, for Cake International, which is a sugarcraft convention that they do in Birmingham. And it actually won me a gold award. So that was my first gold award, and I just can't bear to get rid of it, which is why it's very fadey and probably fit for the bin, but I just can't bring myself to destroy it really. So, but yeah, you see, that was like one of the first really quirky cakes that I ever did make. And since then, I've just been trying different ways of doing, the same for other people. So
what is the most challenging cake you've ever made? What's been the most challenging for whatever reason?
It's really difficult, is that one, because I actually do not know. I do not know. I think it's probably the reveal cakes, because usually you kind of focus on the front and you just decorate the front. So that's like only 50% of the cake that gets all your attention. But when you've got a back to do as well, that's usually kind of full of quirkiness and painting and models and things like that, then the back can sometimes take a lot longer than the front. So they are very, very time consuming, the full reveal cakes. And I often get people asking me, well, how much is that? And I'm like, well, how much is a piece of string? It's how long's a piece of string? It's like, it depends on the level of detail that you really want, because things do take time, and things can take me, I don't know, half an hour, 60 minutes. Some cakes can take me 40, 50 hours, and it's like literally one cake in a week, and it's like proper intense. So it's like, I don't know, I don't really have any kind of challenging like one cake that sticks out in my mind, but it's probably these, just because they take so long to do.
I mean, when you pointed out the level of painting on that cake where you're seeing the Harry Potter reveal, all those books, and then like, is it a castle scene or a forest scene on the second layer up?
It's actually Hogwarts itself. I mean, I made this for the start of the 2020 wedding fair season, but it only came out once, and since then it's just the atmosphere's got it, and it's bled the painting, so you can't really kind of see it, but it's Hogwarts. And it's actually all hand painted. It took me 8 hours to just paint that painting.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine the amount of work that goes in there. This is a cake, or one very similar to it, a Harry Potter cake that we have an image of from you that we share occasionally, and the internet blows up every time we share it. Everybody,
really?
Noticeably, everybody absolutely loves it, and it's because it's a bit different. It's eye-catching, and a word we use in Instagram, thumb stopping when people are scrolling. So yeah, everybody really loves them. So what's your favorite cake that you've ever made?
Well, it has to be maybe this one that's directly behind me. This is the only cake I've ever made exactly twice. I never make the same cake twice apart from this one, but this was actually my wedding cake, because I got married at the end of 2019. We just got in, very lucky, before it all kind of went a bit weird. But yeah, so this is actually mine, and I think it'll take a lot of beating as to be my favorite cake. So
yeah, I knew you were going to say that, because we featured your real wedding on our website, and so I recognized the cake behind as yours. So what a day you had on your wedding day, right?
It was amazing, truly, truly amazing. I don't want to sound cliche, but it really was the best day ever. Really, really was the best day. And it went by in a blur. And there's things that I know that happened, but I don't remember them. But all I know is that I really do not have any regrets from the day. It was a beautiful day. The weather couldn't have been better. End of October, you would have imagined some sort of cloudy, cold day, but it wasn't. The sky was blue. It was just so stunning, and we couldn't have wished for better. But I mean, working in the industry, I've got really good friends, so I know talent and things like that. So it was kind of a bit of a no-brainer for me picking my my suppliers. So it was quite easy, really. So no, it was good. Good.
Do you know the thing about October? So I got married in October as well.
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, 2010, and what you'll notice on your anniversary every year is that it's always blue skies and sunshine in October. You will notice that year on year.
Well, you know what, actually, we this year, because of the lockdown, I was like, I really wanted to go away. So because we didn't get to go on our honeymoon, we were supposed to go to Italy in May. So we were like, right, we'll try and go away somewhere in the UK for our first anniversary. So we went to Bath. And because of the leap year, our anniversary fell on the Tuesday. The weekend was gorgeous. The Monday especially was beautiful. And then on the Tuesday, we decided that we would go to see Stonehenge, and it was absolute horrendous. The rain that came down, and walking up to Stonehenge, it was just like, it was one of those spoof jokey films that you see of like people trudging up a field in like it was just one of those things, and we just had to laugh basically. But so yes, no, our wedding anniversary last year, it was terrible weather.
Oh, well, maybe the weekend was good. It was the leap year. It was
gorgeous. Yes, Bath in the sunshine, late autumn sunshine is beautiful. So yeah, we had a really nice time.
Oh, nice. And so did you feel extra pressure making your own cake, or did you kind of just take it in your stride?
I did and I didn't. When people found out that I was getting married myself, literally they would say congratulations, and then the next thing that came out of their mouth would, are you making your own wedding cake? And so I did kind of feel a lot of pressure that yes, I would. And because I'm known for really quirky cakes, really time-consuming cakes, so I was like, well, I can't really have a really simple thing. That's not me. And I just don't think that it would stand true to my business. So I did feel like I really needed to pull something out of the bag with it. But because I'm obsessed with awesome looking cakes anyway, it was something that was kind of always in my mind. I did have help, I have to admit. My friend that I used to work in the cake shop in London, she came up for a couple of days. And she actually helped me make it. So my actual real wedding cake was a collaboration between me and my friend, because I just don't think I would have ever have done it. Being a professional and doing hundreds of wedding cakes, when it's your own, no, you can't do it yourself. You've got too much things going on. I mean, my husband's Sri Lankan, so in the days leading up to the wedding, his family flew in, so we had to kind of host them. We had to go to the airport and pick them up, so we had to rush to go get the suits and things sorted. So literally in the last days before the wedding, when I should have been working solely on my cake, I was in men's tailoring shops, so I really wouldn't have gotten it done, I don't think, if it wasn't for Rachel. So thank you, Rachel.
Also, it's nice to kind of take the pressure off a bit as the bride. I would never recommend that a bride makes her own wedding cake just before her wedding.
No, or anybody part of the bridal family, it's a bridal party. It's like you're just too focused on everything else to give the cake the attention that it needs. So I mean, I always say if that's what's happening with your wedding, and you've been gifted it by your gran and she's going to do it, or your mum's going to do it, then so be it, it's your wedding. But I would never really recommend it. I would always say get a professional baker to do it for you, because you just don't want that stress.
Yeah, definitely. And also at the end of the day, it's going to look better and taste better, I think, really, unless your family member is a master baker, then do get the professionals in. Okay, so talk to me then, talking about not making your own cake. If a couple wants to book you to make their cake, what's the process? Where do they start with it?
Well, usually it's just contacting me to check dates availability. That's definitely the most important. Sometimes I can fit 2 in one day, but if the venues are a million miles apart, then I can't. So I need to know your venue and your date. And then it's when I can fit, like when I found out that I can fit you in, then on normal circumstances, I invite you to come to my studio, where we basically just sit down for about an hour and just talk about cake, drink tea, eat cake. It's brilliant. Look through my books. I've got 2 portfolios that are full of cakes that I've done in the past, or there's the internet that we can scroll through. So there's never been a consultation where my couples have left without having an idea of what their cake's going to look like. So yes, we chat about that. I sketch the design because I think that having a visual is really important. So you do always see my terrible drawings of it, and then you go away, and then it's up to my couples to decide whether they want to say yes or no, basically. So it's actually quite a chilled time doing it. At the minute, because of COVID and the lockdowns, I'm unable to invite people to come. So I've just been doing Zoom consultations. They're not ideal, but at least we can be face to face, and we can kind of look at things, and I can still sketch the drawing as well. So we are kind of getting by, but yeah, that's kind of the consultation process.
Yeah, I think the Zoom meeting thing, at first it felt very alien, but now it feels a lot more usual to be communicating in this way. So I think it will stick around for couples. I think some people will ask to do their consultation.
I think so, yes. The only thing that isn't really brilliant with the Zooms is that I can offer tastings. Mm-hmm. So tastings are usually going to happen like a lot later on. So I might have to kind of have a Zoom consultation with everybody, get their design in, get them booked in, and then maybe have another meet later when we can, where they can come and taste some cake, basically. So
talk to us about tasting and flavours then. So you talked about your recipe. Is it one flavour that you offer, or do you offer like a few?
I have actually a list of about 20. So there is quite a list of different tastes. My consultation box is a set flavour, which is usually just because they're the most common. Mm-hmm. So the chocolate, my infamous chocolate that a lot of people order from me just because they've tasted it before and they're not interested in any other flavour that I do, they just want the chocolate. So that's in there. White chocolate and raspberry is another good one that people do tend to have. Lemon, and then I do a vanilla, a classic. You've got to sample vanilla and strawberry. So they're my main 4 that I do sample. But I always say my couples, once they've confirmed, if there's any other flavours that they wish to try, then by all means you can. I will cook them up for you to have a little go. My flavours do consist of all the conserves that I make are all homemade. So even though I'm going back to the beginning, it's like I said that the baking part and that process was my least favourite. I do actually make my own jam, so I think it's a really important thing, and I think that's what just takes my cakes to the next level, because everything is all really fresh and fruity tasting, and especially my lemon curd, it's really sharp, so it cuts through the sweetness. So if you've not really got that much of a sweet tooth, a lot of couples do tend to choose lemon because of the lemon curd that it just cleanses your palate. It's very nice, and I have to admit it's my favourite one too.
Is it? I was going to ask that. What's your favourite?
Yeah, I really don't have. I'm a starter and a main girl all the way.
That's what I'm.
I don't really have a sweet tooth.
I generally am like a salty rather than a sweet person, but I think I've tried your white chocolate and raspberry cake before.
Yeah.
And I think it was delicious, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, it is a very, very, very popular flavour, my white chocolate and raspberry. It's notoriously difficult to get the white chocolate flavour because it's such a mild flavour that when you bake it or you have anything else with it, it just kind of hides it. So yes, it's like when I mastered my white chocolate buttercream, it was a revelation, and it's something that'll go with me to the grave, I think.
God damn. Yes. So what's been your proudest moment then, Karen?
In terms of cake decorating, I think it must be when I won my gold awards. I don't know whether the people who are going to be watching are going to be aware of Cake International, but Cake International it's a worldwide thing. It's 3 days in Birmingham every November, usually falls over bonfire night weekend, so I haven't had a bonfire night weekend at home in years. But it's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sugar crafters come together, and there's a massive competition. There's different categories and things like that, and in wedding cakes alone there's usually over 300 entries. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing that people out there can just create something like that. I do recommend to anybody who doesn't know, just have a little Google and just kind of see. It will open your eyes to a different world. It's just amazing. And to win a gold award there was just it was mind-blowing. And I've actually won another gold award since. With my shoes, which is another one that pulls people in. I've actually got a pair of sugar shoes that I always kind of show on my table, and I do have a lot of people coming up and like, why has she got shoes on her table? And they have to come closer and they're like, oh, they're not real.
Are they anywhere near you right now, those shoes?
They're in the cupboard. I can actually get them.
Let's get them
out.
And we can look at the cakes meanwhile.
Yeah. Right, so these shoes, as part of my exhibition, they had a real cake that went with them. So the real cake was a toiletries bag, a man bag. And then these are just, so there's no cake in them, they're all just sugar, so they're actually really they're fully hollow. And they're made out of something called pastillage, which is a sugar dough that sets really firm. So these are my shoes that I made in 2019, and these got me gold as well.
I mean, that's amazing. That's crazy. Look at those.
Yeah, they're actually based on my granddad's. We have the real shoe, and I took more like what's the word? My mind's gone black. Templates.
Yeah.
I took templates from. So these are actually a size 7.
Right. Interesting.
Size 7 Grenson to see. So yes, that's them.
Oh, that's amazing.
So,
well done on the Gold Awards.
Sorry?
Well done on the Gold Awards, because that is serious kudos. I do know of the competition, and I've seen some incredible cake designs from it. All different.
Absolutely amazing. Sorry?
All different types of cakes as well, like anything you can think of, not just wedding cakes.
Oh yeah, there's so many different. I think there's 16 categories, and they're all completely different. I mean, I did the wedding cake category the most. I've got 2 more in the house that won me silvers before I did this one. Because wedding cakes, it's like, well, I'll enter that so I can keep it for my, showing. But other categories involved is like small decorative exhibits that are really tiny but so detailed. There's humongous decorative exhibits, and I mean, like a few years ago, she's kind of famous in the world of sugarcraft now, Lara Mason. She made a life-size Katniss Everdeen.
Wow.
That was all cake and sugar, and it was just like, it's just absolutely mind-blowing really what people can do with sugar these days. So,
yeah, that is amazing. I just eat it, and that's what I do, so I'll leave the crafting to you guys. So Karen, how can brides and grooms get in touch with you if they want to find out more? What's your website address first? I'll pop it.
My website is www.vintagecakefairy.co.uk. I do have a contact form on my website, so if you wanted to fill that in, then you can send me a direct email. Alternatively, I do have my Facebook page, which I do a lot of conversing on, and I do direct message on Instagram as well. So the handles for those are the same, both just Vintage Cake Fairy. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. And we have had a few technical issues, but I think the gist of it's there, and we've been able to stare at the beautiful cakes throughout. So I will.
My dodgy, terrible Wi-Fi.